top 5 SEC East spring football questions. Since I did the SEC West yesterday, we'll do the SEC East today. Number 5, can Mark Stoops keep Kentucky moving forward? This is a team that took huge steps forward last year. Look, they beat Florida for the first time in a long time, and they really look good doing it, but they lost, like Wan'Dale Robinson, their fantastic wide receiver. He's in the NFL draft now. Does he have enough people in the pipeline for Kentucky to, again, they're not going to challenge Georgia for the conference crown, but can they still beat Tennessee? Can they beat Florida again? Can they be, in contention for second in the SEC East, so to speak? I think they'd like to say they are, but I don't know that.
He's got a little program.
I like Mark Stoops. I like him a lot.
He's done a nice job building that. Kind of like reminds me of, nothing flashy, although they're doing well with the UI, with the ability to give money to recruits or players. I like the way he's built that. It's not a house of straw.
Yeah. No, it's not. Will Levis is back. I mean, that gives him a good start. Anytime you have your quarterback back, and yeah, he's built a really nice program. I don't know what takes him ultimately in making that leap from like middle of the pack to being able to contend with the Georgias and I don't even know if that's possible, quite frankly. But, yeah. I mean, very respectable place they're in right now, that's for sure.
Yeah. Number 4, can Spencer Rattler make South Carolina a factor? Now, before, everybody sells on Spencer Rattler, remember that at the end of the, 2020 season, everybody's like, man, this guy could be the first pick in the draft. And then for whatever reasons, chief among them and probably Spencer Rattler's overall attitude at the time, but he kind of hit the wall, and then Caleb Williams was a phenom behind him. Now they're both gone from Oklahoma, as is Lincoln Riley, but Spencer Rattler was the highest thought of player in the country for a long time, and I would think that he's going to improve them. Now, to what level maybe Spencer Rattler's hit his peak, and we don't know that, but I still think they're going to be better with him back behind center, because they have not had a quarterback of even Spencer Rattler's caliber, maybe ever, at South Carolina.
I don't know about some of the history of the other quarterbacks. There's a name or two that just escapes me right now. You would think if he was who he was supposed to be out of high school, which we saw that at OU, that he would have some pride in making sure he's done everything the way it's supposed to be done, no matter what he's getting, and go back and prove what kind of player he is. Because his goals are not to play at South Carolina. His goals are to play in the NFL. And he's going to have that. You talk about red flags, he'll have a few of them.
Can he? Yeah. Will he? I don't know. Obviously, that's the question everybody has. Should he? Absolutely. They put on a big pitch for him, and, he was a pretty highly coveted guy that a lot of teams would have liked to have had. So, South Carolina won that race, and, they better hope so. That was the whole point in pursuing him, was to try and milk out some of this 5-star talent and, put him on that NFL path. And I do think having, the connection with Beamer already should definitely help them. Brought in did they bring in
tight end? Who is
Calcaterra?
No. Was it Calcaterra? Is it he was at SMU, right?
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. It's hard to keep up with everything. But, that wasn't their only OU addition. So, Beamer, that's the connection there. But, yeah, I mean, he should. He better. I mean, that's what we're expecting of Spencer Rattler. Otherwise, this whole entire thing has just been one big sham, talking about him the way that we have, to really see absolutely nothing really in the long run.
Yeah. Saw him start to get there at the end of 2020 and think, oh, man, this guy's – and then 2021 – you sign one Raising Cane's deal, and all of a sudden the wheels fall off. And I don't know if that's the reason, but it was just weird. Everything that happened with Spencer Rattler last year was weird. Number 3, are the Vols finally ready to improve? Year 2 under Josh Heupel, they looked like they made some strides. Last year, of course, when Josh Heupel went there, and I do think this, I think outside of a couple of guys that were really good, I think he shoved a lot of those guys into the portal, so to speak. I mean, basically told them like, hey, you can come back or not, your choice, or not. Just go ahead and.
How many percentage of those who enter the portal are because of that? That sometimes the reason it's filled is because coaches are fed up with the players too.
Yeah. Well, there's a women's basketball coach that was just hired. I forget where. I saw it like last week or something, who told the entire team upon arriving that they're gone. like just clean the entire house. And I don't remember what level or whatever it was. It caused a little to do. But yeah, some of this is coaches as well, seeing guys that aren't fits or cancers in the locker room or whatever, and pushing them or shoving them in the direction of, yeah, go ahead, do us a favor here.
But guess what? As far as Tennessee over the last nearly 20 years goes, it kind of worked. I mean, this was the most exciting Tennessee football's been in a very long time. So it kind of worked. And if he can continue to build, are they ready to do it 2 years in a row? Because there have been plenty of coaches that have come and gone from Tennessee that in the short term, in the first year, think like, oh, okay, well, that looks like something. And then ultimately they, are in the graveyard with all the rest of them and moving on. So, I'm kind of in a Josh Heupel fan club. I hope that he can do something there at Tennessee because,
they look like a football team.
Yeah.
They look like a football team. That doesn't mean they were a good football team, but they were at least
I think it's good for television on college football and college football in general that the 100,000 seat stadiums are people who are happy about what's going on. Yeah. I mean, I think that's good. Number 2, can Billy Napier make an impact immediately at Florida? This was, Dan Mullen was a good coach, but he wasn't getting the top talent because you could kind of see that he wasn't, really buying into the kind of recruiting you have to do now. And I think Dan Mullen is probably kind of veering his way to the NFL where you don't have to do that stuff. And Billy Napier, here's a guy with a ton of energy, a ton of experience in the SEC before, and maybe an attitude they haven't had at Florida in a while.
I think he makes an immediate impact.
I do too. I think they're going to be really good.
I don't know how. Yeah,
they have good players. They don't have Georgia level players yet, but they have good players.
No nonsense, doesn't give two blanks about anything other than winning football games, and I think he'll tighten up that ship, and that right there is probably worth at least a couple of wins.
Yeah, should be. That's one of those schools that really has no excuse. Like when it comes to, I mean, they've fallen behind in facilities and they have more money than God, and nobody can figure out how they did that. But they have no excuse for anything. And number 1, can anyone really challenge Georgia? Probably not this year, but we'll see. This is a team that looks pretty loaded for bear in Athens. But that's the thing. You're kind of playing for second right now. But can somebody knock them off? Maybe, but it's going to be tough.
What they did was not a fluke by any means. What they did is a slow, methodical rise to being able to not only beat Alabama, but also sustain it. And now we'll find out they're there. Can they stay there? It's a lot easier sometimes to get there than to keep it. And they're loaded. You're right. Absolutely. Daniel just put Grambling State on the chat room about the women's basketball coach.
Thank
he just
you.
Cleared everything out, Daniel.
Couldn't remember who it was, but I remember reading about that and all the uproar over her basically just hey, team gone by. I'm starting over from scratch. So, yeah, it's not always the players making the decisions.
Levi Caraway.